Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. We are going to get into some Falcons free agency predictions. We're going to give our official predictions for who will be under center in 2024 for the Atlanta Falcons, the hottest topic right now in Atlanta sports. Nick Saban had some interesting comments on NIL. The Falcons are actually already the favorite to win in the NFC South. We're going to talk about all of that, but we're going to start off with national championship odds for the upcoming college football season. Alex, if I know you feel the exact same way, college football cannot get here soon enough. We've talked about how this new format and stuff is going to be it's going to be so much fun to watch. I know there's a lot of people that are hesitant to it, but a 12-team college football playoff with these expanded divisions where you have Texas going up against Georgia and Alabama going up against, Oklahoma. It's going to be thrilling for college football fans, and I cannot wait till it gets here. Let's get into these odds. Obviously, Georgia is the favorite. That is no surprise at plus 300. I think the interesting aspect you have to consider about these odds is that the top teams, the really, really elite teams, they're not just a game or two away from slipping up, losing a little bit of focus from losing out on a chance at a national championship. They're probably shoo-ins to get into the game, and that's the way that I feel, the playoff, and that's the way that I feel about the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah, Carson Beck, arguably the best quarterback in college football, returning. Some might point to Shedeur Sanders in Colorado, Quinn Ewers at Texas, Dylan Gabriel at Oregon. Arguably the best quarterback resides in Athens. They're reloading. They don't rebuild. This is now the Alabama dynasty. Just think of it that way. If you're a Georgia fan, good for you. If you're not, it's time to swallow that pill. They're going to be the top dogs. I know they didn't even make the playoffs last year, but consider them the consistent top dog every single season until they aren't for probably 3 or 4. And even still, you can't take them lightly. Kirby Smart's got an NFL machine down there in Athens, just constantly popping out NFL talent, and they will be the top dog. And that is important, I think, in terms of what you were touching on, the expanded playoffs and how, a lot of people who don't like it would point to that exactly, of how like Georgia could lose a game and still get in. And, it kind of diminishes the regular season. I think if it is the complete opposite, it makes more teams able to say, we have hope. It gives more fan bases hope. Yeah, that is true for a couple of the top teams. Like, that is true for Georgia. Like, if you don't like Georgia in it, then that makes sense. But I think overall, the teams from 8 to 16 have hope. And I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that Michigan-Ohio State game that's become that 1-2 matchup, or that Alabama-Georgia game in the SEC championship, may not carry as much weight as it did previously.
And I disagree with that. I fundamentally disagree with that. Maybe it doesn't mean less to those teams or the fan bases.
I don't think it means less, but regardless, you're going to get those matchup in the college football playoffs, and they are going to be determining buys. So I think it adds a new wrinkles, and those top 20 teams up until the last couple of weeks, they're all going to feel like they have a chance. And all those games are going to mean so much more. So your new Tennessee versus South Carolina or whatever, those games, Tennessee versus Ole Miss, those are going to be playoff matchups in the middle of the season that are going to have those same vibes to those fan bases as Ohio State and Michigan. Speaking of Ohio State, they have the second best odds at plus 480. They're, I think, my favorite bet, I would say, and I know that's not really giving a long odd bet or something like that, but I think plus 480. I think there's an Ohio State team with the transfer of Will Howard, with Chip Kelly coming over. I know they haven't gotten over the hump with Ryan Day. Caleb Downs is going to now be in that defense. They already were loaded. I think on a talent-to-talent basis, they're right there with Georgia, and I think they got a slightly easier path to getting that first-round bye and winning the Big Ten.
Slightly easier. I don't think that's even a conversation. I wouldn't even put slightly in there. They have an easier path, bar none. Like, this isn't even questionable. I mean, there's 4 teams, and now that Oregon's there, that, have a potential of going to the college football playoff. In the SEC, it's upwards of like 8. Like, literally, there could be 8, not 8 total, but 8 teams in the SEC with legitimate playoff aspirations. Whereas in the Big Ten, it's, maybe a shell of Michigan without Jim Harbaugh and that 25-man super senior class that is leaving. They love Sherrone Moore in Ann Arbor, and I'll, hold my breath to see how he runs that program. But, the only guys they really have to worry about, in my opinion, is Oregon, because Penn State has shown you time and time again that they are not up to the task of winning the Big Ten. Time and time again. So Ohio State definitely has an easier path. I'd like their odds much more than
I-
Georgia.
I definitely think Oregon's right here at plus 850. Texas, new conferences and stuff like that. Oregon going to the Big Ten, Texas going to the SEC, obviously coming off really good seasons where they're a borderline top 5 teams. Either of those interest you at plus 700 or plus 850.
I like Oregon again for a little bit of the same reasons that I said Ohio State, that I think the Big Ten is easier than the SEC. Though I do, Texas gets Georgia, their toughest game in the regular season in Austin. So that does matter. But I just love what Oregon's building. Dylan Gabriel was very, very good for Oklahoma. I think in terms of his own development, his personal trajectory to the NFL, Oregon was the best path for him. Venables and Oklahoma seemingly take a huge step back. But I like Oregon a lot. I just like what they're building. I picked them twice against Washington and lost both times, but I'm not wavering on the Ducks. I like that program a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Dan Lanning. I think he's got that too. And I like Steve Sarkisian.
I like Dan Lanning for like the next decade.
Yeah, I like Steve Sarkisian too. So I think both those guys are trending in the right direction. It'll be interesting to see them in, a better conference. I don't care what you say about the Pac-12. It had a really good season. The Big Ten is going to be a better conference, especially with it expanded. And I'm really interested to see, and I think everyone in the South is interested to see how Texas handles that transition to the SEC. Then you got a trio of SEC teams that it seems like one of these teams is going to come out alive. If I had to give you one, obviously we love LSU. We both went there. I know I'm rocking the Georgia stuff, but that's for you Georgia fans out there. Alabama, LSU, and Ole Miss. Alabama's at plus 1,300. Ole Miss and LSU at plus 1,500. Of those 3 teams, I think at least one of them, if not multiple of them, get to the college football playoff, the 12-team playoff. Which one do you think it would be? Which one do you like the most out of those?
To win? Well, I don't think it's crazy to say that all 3 teams with Texas and Georgia could make the playoff. Is it odds on? Obviously not. Out of those, I think I love Nuss. And I watched an LSU hype video last night and saw Kyron Lacy. Either LSU's pass defense is going to once again be a huge sore spot, or Kyron Lacy is going to win the Biletnikoff next year. I'm starting to think Kyron Lacy is that dude. So obviously, I love Nuss and LSU, but I don't know how you kind of go against Jackson Dart. He's, in my opinion, the second best or third best quarterback in the SEC, ahead of Jalen Milroe, in my estimation. Ole Miss just brought in the top recruit or transfer portal class as well. Love Lane Kiffin. Absolutely love Lane Kiffin. Almost Ole Miss, I think.
Yeah, I think I like Ole Miss the best out of those 3, at least to reach the college football playoff. And then when you're there, you never know what can happen.
Anything
because
can happen.
I think there's enough talent of the 12 teams that maybe not all 12 teams could win it.
Well, DeBoer also lost Washington's offensive coordinator to Seattle. I think that's a huge loss, And
then I'm just going to ask you, because we can't get into all the plus 3,000s and stuff like that. But which team? Because there's always a team, and especially with a 12-team playoff, there will probably be multiple teams that kind of come out of nowhere. I mean, we've seen LSU do it with Joe Burrow. We've seen a ton of Florida State last year wasn't really exactly hyped up to be there. Yeah. They go undefeated. Which one of these teams kind of in this plus 3,000 range? I'll read some out to you. I mean, Michigan's at plus 1,600. Obviously, we know they lost. I don't love that bet at all. That's way too low for as much as they lost with a new head coach. Clemson, I mean, at plus 3,000.
I don't know when people are going to stop giving into the Dabo. It's over. Over.
Tennessee at plus 3,000.
I don't mind that one.
Missouri at plus 3,500.
I don't like that one.
Texas A&M at plus 4,000. USC at plus 4,500. Oklahoma at 5,500. Let's go even a little dirt. How about this one? Utah at plus 7,000. Utah in the Big 12. Utah in the Big 12, though. The Big 12, they only have to bring in. They get an automatic bye if they win that division.
I'm blanking on it. Is Cam Rising? Is he?
He's back for year.
Golly, that guy's like 40. That guy's 40. I like Tennessee, and I'm going to butcher his name, Nico.
Iamaleava.
Nico.
I'm just kind of that's like hooked on phonics. Like literally, I don't know if there's there could be some enunciation problems there. That's strictly.
I like Nico. I like Tennessee. You saw what Heupel could do with a very good quarterback. Tennessee fans thought way too highly of Joe Milton. I don't think their confidence is displaced with Nico. I think he's the real deal. I like Heupel. I don't think 3,000. I'd have them ahead of Missouri. Like, that's crazy. Like, Missouri lost.
They're ahead of Missouri.
Oh, okay.
3,500 is what Missouri said.
Missouri lost everybody on that defensive side of the ball. I mean,
the defensive staff, but they pretty much return everybody.
That's so important, though.
I'm trying to look if there's just anyone that's just, way out here, like plus 300,000. Like, Colorado. If you want to lose some money.
Yeah,
on
you
that.
want to just lose money.
If you want to lose some money on that.
I'm trying to think of a Big Ten team that could surprise somebody. Maybe Wisconsin. Maybe Wisconsin could surprise some folks.
Wisconsin's in here at plus 250,000.
It's only, I don't know. That's crazy. 200,000 people, $100 can win you a house. That's what Wisconsin.
At least a down payment.
I love that.
Yeah, Oklahoma State I think is sneaky. I'm just talking about making the playoff maybe. But I think the Big 12 is just so wide open. That's why I kind of like teams like – I'm trying to think of teams where they can win the Big 12. They get a first-round bye. Now, I don't think they're going to win the national championship. But if you're talking about just making the playoff,
Utah's got to be the favorites to come out of the Big 12, and I don't think it's particularly close.
Yeah, I agree. We got to go to break up. After the break, we're going to talk about Nick Saban and his comments on NIL, the future of college football, and why he decided to hang it up.